Hey, party people, how's it going? It's your boy, DJ Fernando G, and welcome to the first edition of DJ to DJ. And basically, this is just a little platform where we're going to be talking to some seriously experienced DJs who can give you some great, helpful tips. And my first guest today is a legend here in Southern California. We're talking about Joe Casillas, DJ Joe MD, back in the day, aka Midnight Desire. Welcome, brother. How are you, man?
Wonderful, wonderful. Glad to be here, Fernando. DJ to DJ. All right.
I like it. Yeah, it was funny because I even reached out to you for the name of what I wanted to call this. I wasn't too sure, what to name it, and I just said, you know what, DJ to DJ, because we're gonna be talking to DJs, so why not? I'm a DJ. You're a DJ. Hey. So tell me, Joe. Let's talk a little bit about how you got started in DJing. I mean, obviously today these DJs they don't have the struggles that you and I had back in the day. We're talking 70s, 80s. Tell us a little bit how you got started. What motivated you to become a DJ?
Well, I got motivated because let me kind of rewind back to the 70s. I was going to college in Phoenix, and I was going to all the nightclubs. At that age, was 19 years old to get into the clubs. So I was just listening to the music, the vibe, and just the mixing. I mean, it was just motivating. I started off as a dancer, and basically, when I graduated, what happened is I joined a dance team. And in one of the pictures I sent you,
Uh-huh.
you can see myself, my wife, and a couple of friends. And we were basically dancing, the circuit, go to all the clubs, and
Right.
we had this thing going on, and just the continuous of the music, just loved it. So the guy that actually created the dance team, his name was Tony Trevera, and he was from New York. He had a little mixer and a turntable. And one time he just basically said, "Hey, Joe, I need you to put the music on so we can basically go ahead and practice, and then we're going to go and do some shows."
Mhm.
So that's kind of my first hands on a mixer and a turntable. And let me tell you, when I was holding that needle, I was just like, and it
Yep.
just, and I dropped it, and it goes clink, clink, clink. So that was my first experience.
That is so funny, man. Because
As a,
that
as a, as
when that you mentioned that, I got to tell you this real quick. The needle thing. The
a,
very first time, and it might have been your sound system that I spun on at the Casa Camino Real here in downtown Los Angeles, and it was my first time, and this was probably like my biggest event to date. Um, and I was so nervous, and I pulled one of those. My hand was like this, and the needle, and it just dropped it, boom, and in my headphones, like I hear, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so funny, hilarious.
yep, yep. Anyway, that was my first experience actually touching. And then what happened is I actually got married in '78 to my
Mm,
wife Jane, and from there the DJ that did my wedding was Johnny Martinez. He was the lead singer of Ruben and the Jets.
okay,
And I asked him, "Hey, John, would you mind if I joined you? And I want to learn how to do this because it's exciting, you know." I love it. So he basically I tailed him for 3 months, no pay, you know, and he said, "Joe, the most important thing is know your music because as a musician, you have to listen to a song and not just once, but possibly as many as 10 times to really understand the structure of the song."
right,
The other thing that's important is that you need to be good on the microphone. You need to be able to announce who you are because there's going to be come time where you're going to do an event, a wedding or a social event, and you're going to have to be able to basically talk on the microphone. So those are the two things that he emphasized that I learned. He didn't talk about mixing
right.
or anything. He said, learn your music, learn how to talk on the microphone. So I went with him for 3 months, bought my own equipment, and it was funny because I went to, do you remember a place called Music Plus?
Yes, yes,
It was off Atlantic
yep.
in East LA. I bought my first mixer, which was a Newmark 1100, and my first turntable, which was the Techniques. It was the first one with the little knobs. So it
Okay.
didn't have the slider, or it wasn't a 1200. So this is going back to the belt-driven
Yeah.
turntables.
Yeah.
You remember that? So
Oh yeah.
it was hard to mix with that thing because the belt.
Yeah. You would hold the record, and the second you let it go, it would take off.
So the belt-driven turntable was, pain in the neck. But you know what? That's what we got started with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so that's how I kind of started with DJing.
Very cool. Very cool. So, as far as like beat mixing, when would you say that you really started to nail it? And like some of us, like I remember I just used to cut from one song to the other, try to
Right.
get it on beat, but I wasn't actually mixing when I very first started. So, how did you learn to beat mix?
So I had already understood the structure of music, how to break it down, like 4, 8, 16 beats. But really, where I learned um, was back in the day when I was going to all the clubs in Phoenix, Arizona, because I would hear these guys mix. I really didn't get it until I went to Circus Disco,
Hmm.
and I heard Trip mixing there, and the guy was phenomenal. I went up to the booth and I was just like blown away. I looked at his turntables, and they were the Techniques digital turntable. They were the 1500s.
Hmm.
So if you remember they were before the 1200s.
Yes.
They were quartz driven, but they were an LED type where you see the display, so you can adjust it up and down. And those are the first turntables that I saw, and I said, I've got to have them. So ironically, I bought a couple. They were $800 a piece.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back in that time, that was a lot of money.
Back in those days. But
Yeah.
the reason I was able to afford it is because when I went to school in Phoenix, I became an engineer, technician, and eventually an engineer. So that's what I did. And
Good for
I had a
you.
good
Good for
job.
you.
I was working for Hughes Aircraft, working on all the radar systems. So I was
Wow.
making good money.
Good for
So I
you.
could buy basically anything I wanted.
Good
And
for you.
that's how I learned how to beat mix, from listening to Trip at the Circus Disco.
Nice, nice. So, as far like right now that you mentioned your engineering background, how did your engineering background help you with with DJing? And what was it that, because I mean, like, we're gonna look at some pictures right now of your setups, and we're talking back in the early '80s. Um, you were literally a pioneer of massive setups, stuff that we would see at concerts. You were the first, and I think the only DJ back in the 80s that I saw fly his speakers. And for those of you that understand sound, when you're at a concert, you see the speakers raised up in the air. Well, Joe Casillas was doing that with trussing, built homemade trussing, if I recall correctly. I mean,
Uh,
how,
so
how did that all come into play?
so back in the day, it was very important because of the speakers. What would happen is you put them on the floor, people would dance. So the people in the back, you couldn't lit. It would just boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm talking about,
Yep,
because they would.
yep.
So at that point, I had to make a decision, and I said, you know what? I got to buy some speakers, because what happened is when I originally started, I started with a friend of mine called Michael Veros, and we started with Electro Voice Century 4s.
Okay.
And if anybody knows the Electro Voice Century 4s, what they did is it basically the high end speakers, the horns, they were actually installed in Circus Disco,
Mm,
along with a lot of other nightclubs. So that was like, oh, I got to have that
right, right.
because it sounds great. So here we are taking these Century 4s in the beginning, where most of the DJs were bringing home their home speakers and just basically putting them on the floor. And what would happen is anybody that would stand in front of them, guess what? The sound would get
Sound.
muffled.
Yep.
So at that point, I had to say, you know what? I got to design something to elevate my speakers. So I basically looked around, being an engineer at that time. I said, I got to buy some speakers that I can put off axis. In other words, rather than vertical, put horizontal. So when I found there were the Century, not the Century 4, they were the Dominators from
Mm.
Electro Voice.
Electro Voice
And
Dominator.
how those differ is they had the bass cabinet inside, but the horn was straight up.
Sounds
So I
right.
thought, you know what? Let me put that on the side. That way I can have an even flow. So I had my neighbor, I designed some trussing or some stands. Basically, they were 9 feet high, 90 degree. If you can just imagine,
Yeah.
they were hot iron type of welding,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff together, in the air, 30 degrees with some bars so the speaker wouldn't slide off.
Right. Right.
So I had four of these basically strategically planned, two in the middle and two on the sides to cover the entire dance floor, and then my bass cabinets on the side.
Wow. That's
So
wild.
I never knew Fernando at the time, who would ever thought of putting speakers on stands?
I'm telling you, you were the only one that I saw, and it's funny because, now our story and how we met is quite kind of unique, and I'm telling you, I know that back in the day we didn't meet, until actually early 2000s. That's when you and
Right.
I met personally. We became friends and all, but I knew of you. And your amazing sound systems, growing up and stuff, and DJing all the halls out here, Casa Camino, the Bell, all these, Kennedy Hall, everybody knew Joe Midnight Desire, and the sound that you would provide. It was incredible, and not to mention the lighting and stuff. But in back in early 2000, I was working on air at Vivo 107.1, a Latin station here in Southern California, and you were spinning at the Roomba Room at the Universal City Walk. So the radio station worked out a deal for us to broadcast live there, and that's where I met you. And we became friends ever since, And it wasn't until literally probably like about a year later was that I realized, oh my God, this is Joe Midnight Desire. I was like, we were already hanging out and chatting and swapping music and stuff like that. And then I realized who he was, and I was like, my God, this guy was like, he's a pioneer. He's an idol, man. And it's like, this guy's awesome. And I mean, your mixing talent is incredible as well. And throughout the years now, you were also another person that originated something else, which was bringing drum machines and keyboards to your DJ gigs back in the early 80s. How'd you
Yep.
come up with that one?
Well, having a musical background, let me kind of go back. If you remember when you were a little kid, uh, and I'm talking about 9 or 10 years old, what would you do? You would play records, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I would go to visit my family in El Paso, Texas, and rather than play records, we all get together in the backyard and play instruments. So here we are singing.
Nice. Nice.
My uncles were playing guitars, my dad was playing guitar, and we'd be playing like Rancho Grande and singing. So for us, we didn't have records. We basically were playing, musicians. So I grew up in a musical kind of environment. My
Very cool.
cousins were musicians. My mother cousin, Vicky Carr, which became an international world-renowned singer.
Really?
Yeah, Vicky
Oh
Carr.
my.
Yeah, she was.
And I got a story about Vicky Carr to share with you when you're done with this segment. Go for it, dude. Oh my gosh.
So that was basically my influences when I was growing up. My dad said, you know what, you got to learn an instrument. And so he said, what do you think? And I go, well, I don't know, Dad. He goes, let me get you an accordion. I go, an accordion? And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be the most difficult instrument that you have to play because it has two, your
Yeah.
keys on the left and then your keyboard on the right, and then you got to put it in,
You gotta
squeeze
let
it
the air get through to make it sound.
in. I took lessons with that, and I said, oh my God. Then eventually bought a piano, and then I started playing a little bit of piano. So that's how I kind of basically became, uh, more inclined with the music. Because I personally think any DJ out there, and this is for the newbies,
Mhm.
should learn music
By all
structure.
means.
They should, take a class, go to college, take a 3 month course
Yes.
on musical structure, the format. That way you'll understand it better and you could comprehend and say, okay, that's why they put it together. So when you want to
Exactly.
go into the production aspect of it, you understand the basics, because there's a formula, A, B, A, B, is, what is it? Chorus, vocals, chorus, vocals.
Yeah.
And if you want to go ahead and put a bridge, then you basically, that's A, B, C.
There you go. There you go.
you have to understand your music.
Exactly. And it's interesting that you say that, because I've heard a lot of DJs, they beat me mix great,
Mhm.
but many times you'll run into a situation where, even though it's the beats are on in sync and stuff, it's like it's not going good with the ear, and the melodies seem to be clashing and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
like hitting. That's like on the piano. That's like playing key and hitting the wrong key.
exactly.
People pick it up. You
Yeah.
you may not realize it, but people will pick it up like, oh, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's what it sounds like.
Yep. And you're sitting there going like, ah, okay, and I mean, like, for people like you and I, that, our ears are trained now. I mean, we hear when a DJ is slightly off, it's like, uh oh, speed it up, slow it down, and or
Right.
when those melodies are clashing and stuff. But it's like you say, people do see that. I mean, there's times, and no DJ is perfect. Everybody has their little glitches from time to time, and I've had those mixes where I might have done the same mix a million times, but then there's that one night where I just happen to get it wrong, and it doesn't sound right, and people will literally like look, like that don't sound right, and they'll
It
kind
was
of
on beat.
stop dancing, and but
It
you're
was on.
right, people pick up on those things. It's funny, crazy, crazy, crazy. So, we're gonna look at a picture right now, and I don't know if this was your studio or what, but it's like it looks like a boatload of drum machines, and you got this wall of equipment. What's this all about? Talk to us about that.
Okay, so let me see the picture real quick. Oh, you got to show the picture.
We'll post it up in post.
Okay, so back in '84, I want to say I became more influential in the music background
Hmm.
and the structure. So I started buying keyboards and drum machines. And I started actually learning more and more how to play music and put rhythms together. So ironically, I would have my little studio, and I said, you know what? Why don't I take this out to a couple of gigs of mine? So what happened is I went ahead and took my drum machines. I built this little setup, took my drum machines and my keyboards and the sampler in pocket pads. I was doing events at like Rockety 80s at the time, Michael's, and Brandy's, and all these other guys, DJs were like, "Holy crap, what is this guy doing?" So ironically, here I would be playing these beats, and I mean, they were matching my music, my blends perfectly, and they were like, they couldn't understand it. But this is back in '84,
Mm-hmm.
so if you can understand now, back then with the synthesis, the drum machines actually playing with the drums to the music, people were like, wow, this guy
That's
is
cool.
ahead of his
That's
time.
cool. And that's so funny, because now, we have companies that now will provide percussionists,
Right.
violinists, keyboardists to play along with the music that you're spinning. And you were doing this, ages ago, so
Right.
it's like, and you were a one-man show, because now you got a DJ spinning, you got a drummer over here, you got a violinist over here, and a keyboardist over there, and you got like a full little band going on. But you were doing this by yourself. You were spinning, and you would turn and start working the drum machines and overlaying some keys on top of a song, back in the day. I mean, that's just freaking awesome, bro. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, just,
Oh, yeah.
people were blown away.
I would take samples like Babe We're Gonna Love Tonight,
Hmm.
and I would play that sample, and then I would loop it, and then I would change the key up and down, and mix that stuff. And people were like, "What
What the
the
heck?
hell
You
is
guys are
this guy
doing
doing?"
remixing on the fly, man.
It was crazy because me, Fernando. I've always been humble.
Yeah.
When I met you, I didn't even say, "Hey, I'm in that desire."
Yeah, no, and
I
that's what I appreciated about you, bro. Is that you're just, this guy has got the biggest heart, and I mean, just seriously an amazing fellow, man.
thank you, but it was crazy because I'd have all these people around me, surround me, and I'll just be doing my thing, and I just turn around like, "Oh, okay."
That's wild. Dude, I mean, you were a superstar, man, and that's why it was like, like I'm telling you, when I found out who you are, and I think I came up to you at the club one night, and I said, "Why didn't you tell me you were Joe Midnight Desire?" You know, I was like, I was like, I don't know, it's just one of those things. But I mean, so let's talk about, it's interesting how you were doing the sampling back then. Now we
Mhm.
got controllers with all this stuff built in. And this
Right.
is this is what I wanted to get at, for like DJs that are out there. I mean, we went through a lot of, pain, I mean, literally for hauling these big ass speakers. I mean,
Oh,
we're talking the big old Sherman Vegas, I mean, just massive bass bottoms, mids, high ends, and I remember high ends being huge as well, and the lighting being so heavy, and having to carry, milk crates of records. What would you say the biggest difference is now, when it comes to sound equipment? What is it that you love most about today's equipment as opposed to back in the day?
well, there's two different things, Fernando. The equipment from back in the day is more vintage. Um, there was a really good stuff and there was the okay stuff. I've always been a JBL or electric voice fan, so that's what I've always done. And you'll probably see a couple pictures where I did the bass cabinets and then more bass cabinets in pyramid style.
Yep. Yep.
So for me, it was very important to have that. Now you can basically get the speakers. They're more efficient. They're probably a thousand times more efficient as far as the bass, mids, and highs. So you can literally take two 18-inch bass cabinets and they will outperform four of back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
If you can kind of put that together. But
Yeah.
again, before we used to carry these massive amps that weighed about 80 pounds of press.
Yep.
And you can just imagine taking that stuff and we would go upstairs. There were no elevators.
Yep.
We would carry this shit upstairs, bass cabinets and everything. Two guys literally carrying this stuff upstairs. We're young. I mean, nowadays, like, oh my God.
Yeah, right. And it's funny, and people always ask why do you have so many back problems? If you only knew, right?
Got a good back,
Right.
probably back in the day.
Yeah.
But again, the equipment, you know, from back in the 70s, 80s, and now has just progressed. The technology
Yeah.
has just gotten to the point where, like, oh my God, what is next?
Yeah.
But the efficiency on the speakers then and now. Now, mind you, setting up all that stuff, because I would do these big parties for Brandy's, Rock of the 80s, Michael's, the Quiet Cannon, all the lighting, the sound and everything, it would literally take me 4 hours.
Wow. Wow.
And I would basically take my brother-in-law and another person. That would be it.
Wow. Really, three of you.
Three of us. But we had it down. I mean, we had it down.
Yeah.
You had to have. You had to be efficient.
Yeah.
At that time, when they said, okay, the party's over, it's 2 o'clock, right? And you're there till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, chances are they're not going to hire you again. They're going to say, but we can't have that. So you had to be efficient in what you did.
Yeah.
So you had to, after you're done, load that stuff up, break it down. Within an hour, you're gone.
Wow. Wow. And this was, I mean, like we're gonna see some pictures here of your setup back in the day when you were talking about the pyramid speakers and stuff like that. It was a lot of equipment. I mean, because like the Rock of the '80s, I mean, you would do these things at the Pico Rivera Sports Arena over here, and we're talking thousands of people, and it was pretty intense. The sound, the punch that you guys used to have was just incredible. The light shows. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did you also build some lighting yourself? You created
Yes.
some of your own lighting as well, right?
Yes, I did.
Crazy.
So picture that you're going to see back in 1979 with my speakers up in the air. In those days, they had remember the oscillators?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, in those days, they had the single oscillators. There was no such thing as a four oscillator type of banks, what they call them, banks.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I went ahead, built a box, painted it, and put 4 oscillators on there. So I had 4 bank oscillators back in the day, back in '79.
Hmm.
And then what I did is I went ahead and built another box, put a little plastic reflector, like it's almost like a mirror
Wow.
on that, and then I put a beacon in front. And what I did then is I went ahead, and the beacon had two heads, so when it would spin, the beams would crisscross rather than just go around like that.
Right. Right.
It would crisscross.
So you would get this type of effect.
And then what I did with my four-head copters, I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and. If you remember that back in the day, they came with like this little gel clip.
Gel clips.
You
Yeah.
put gels in there. So I said, you know what? Let me change it because there's this beam coming out. It looks awesome, but I'm going to go ahead and invest in some what we call is gels that give you more of a like a like a line.
Hmm.
So in other words, what it does is it gives you more of a beam effect rather
Just
than
a thinner.
a thinner.
Yeah.
So you create this beam, and what I would do is I put them in my foreheads, and sometimes what I would do is I put them vertically. So if you can imagine, it give you this helicopter effect.
Wow.
So I had four of them: red, green, blue, and white. And then I would flip them, so I'd have one going up and one going reverse. So you'd see these things going back and forth, and people were like,
It was awesome, man. It was awesome. I mean, now, we got these moving heads and stuff, and these really great effects. But seriously, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these companies, picked up on what you were creating back in the day, because, I mean, definitely your engineering background, gave you an advantage amongst other DJs. There was a lot of talented DJs back in the day, really good stuff, and DJs that also had, large equipment, but you took it to the next level. Like these guys, Pegasus, Electra, I mean, I remember going to a hall and feeling the bass while I was standing in line outside, like boom, boom, and with like an earthquake. And
oh yeah.
I remember thinking, I'm not going to make it as a DJ because I'm going to lose my hearing tonight. Like it was so freaking loud. But I mean, they were walls of speakers that you guys used to put up. And I just found it so amazing. And now, like you were talking about, the technology allows us to get that clean bass and just a clean sound with minimal equipment, and like personally, I'm using the RCFs right now, and I love the how compact they are, how easy they are to set up, and the quality that you get, for when you're doing weddings and quinceañeras and stuff, and even in large halls, they got a nice throw. They elevate, you got the arrays now, that make it simple as you don't have to create these monster trucks like you did back in the day, but it's really helpful, and it's awesome the way it's all evolved.
I've had those the RCF, the E-Box series, right?
Mm.
I've had those for over 4 years,
Yeah.
and ever since that speaker came out, I go, I gotta have this.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
they came
you were
out,
the reason why I got them, so just
and then,
FYI.
well, talk about those, and then I got the larger ones, which are the NX24s.
Wow.
I have four of the bass cabinets, 18s, and four of those, and talk about the sound quality.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's just
Great.
phenomenal. And the good thing about it, Fernando, is like back in the day, taking all this stuff, it was just a pain, a real pain to setting it up.
Yeah.
Now it's become so compact, like you were saying, and you get this great sound. It doesn't matter if you're 10 feet away or 200 feet away, basically sounds the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the efficiency in these speakers, and what they did, RCF is basically spun out the technology of Bose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, Bose back in the day, back in the 70s, if you kind of remember, they had a rectangular type of speaker,
Right.
but they had a bunch of speakers inside of them. If you take the cover off, you saw a bunch of speakers.
Yeah.
So eventually what they got is they got smart, and Bose built their L1 series. But what happened is they weren't powerful enough. They were good stereophonic home speakers.
Right.
You can use them for DJing, but they're just not as powerful as like an RCF. And now you see American DJ, Electro Voice, the Evolve system, the Maya. So all of these speaker manufacturers are migrating to that design of the little mini line
Yeah,
arrays.
yeah.
Notice that.
It's awesome. It's crazy, man. So, there was, oh man, I lost my chain of thought right now. I started envisioning the speakers and stuff.
So,
Um, so let's talk about today and your equipment today. So we're gonna look at a picture here where you got your video screens up and everything. So now you've transitioned, from building your own stuff to just getting the proper equipment and making it look cool. So one of your specialties now is obviously video mixing, and you have an amazing setup because you work it to where your lightings enhance the experience of watching the videos. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
so I started becoming a video jock, I want to say back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you kind of remember a place in Monterey Park called the Turning Point off of
Yes.
Valley,
Mm-hmm.
what happened is they went ahead and sold all their equipment. In fact, I bought their show in Vegas.
Wow.
Those were my first show in Vegas. We're talking about 70s, right?
Yeah.
But they started putting monitors, TV monitors. And I saw these things. I go, oh my God, that is the next phase. That's is watching videos, music videos. So then I started working for Acapulco. And if you can remember, back then they had the VHS tapes.
Yes.
So you would put them in there. You couldn't mix with them. You would just put them in, play the music
Play the music
video.
in the background. Yeah.
So eventually you would see them come out on MTV and VH1.
Mm-hmm.
So that really sparked an interest in me. I said, you know what? In order as a DJ, we have to take that entertainment and basically grow it and become more of an entertainer, not only by playing your music, but the music that you play, but also if you can incorporate graphics and music videos into your system. So I took that technology back then and started migrating it over to today. Now what I do is I go ahead and I kind of came up with the scheme of flying my screen overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see some of the pictures, the DJ setup is here on the bottom, and then I have the screen on top, and then I have a short throw projector behind me with 128 screens. So whatever I'm playing here, you can see it on the screen.
Nice, nice. And then but you still go even bigger than that because you have the large screen, but then you have your monitors off to the side on trussings as well, right?
Right. So I have those as well. I don't use the TV monitors as often as I did before.
Mm-hmm.
Reason being is because now you have to take a truss to house it,
Yeah.
and then it's just going to take up more space.
Yeah.
For me, it was easier to set up 220-inch or 135-inch screens on both sides, flagging me on both sides. I'm in the middle,
Right.
and projecting it from the back.
That's freaking awesome, man. That's freaking awesome. Well, like I say, man, you put on a great show, from since you started to this day. I mean, now you're still hustling, you're still doing weddings, quinceañeras, and everything else. You're still out there, and you're at a nightclub. Tell us about the club.
Well, the club, I basically started doing the clubs, I want to say back in the Turning Point era.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to another club in La Mirada, did that for a while. And then I went to the Winston's, which was the Sheraton, for about 5 years. And then after that, I went to Camacho's, or not Camacho's, but what is the Rumba Room.
Rumba Room.
And that's where I met you.
Yep.
And then from there, I went to another place called Wings.
Wings West Covina.
You went there
Yeah.
also. And then there was another nightclub called Peppers.
City of Industry, yeah.
Remember that? And then Camacho's there. And then I went basically to the Quiet Canyon. So I was a DJ at the Quiet Canyon for about 11 years, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to Trevino's in Covina.
Nice.
So I've been at Trevino's, knock on wood. I've had a residency there for 11 years.
11 years, man.
And the thing with the nightclub, and this is for the newbies, is what's very important is that you continuously evolve.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stay within the same box. You have to evolve not only in your musical talent, but in the music that you play and reading the crowd and your mixing abilities. No one will last at a club like Studio 54, Circus Disco, without understanding musical structure
Yeah.
and where you're taking the crowd. Because you have to basically say, you know what, I'm going to start at this point, I'm going to build it, I'm going to change it, and then build it again, change it, and build it again, and keep everybody, energized and motivated
Yeah.
on dance. I mean, you can literally, and I'll just tell you, you can literally burn out a crowd in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
At a
And
wedding or quinceañera, you can sit there and just burn them out. The important thing is for you to understand music, structure, and pace yourself. Yes, I'm going to go in and play the hits, but I'm also going to play stuff that they love and recognize or didn't hear before, and then also play, just keep it going.
yeah.
And you got to play a variety for everyone. You have to
Yeah.
understand that. Also in the club, the same thing. You have to get out of your booth, walk around, see what's around, see what they're grooving to, and then go back in there. Just
Exactly.
nowadays, what happens is most DJs, and I'm not going to say all of them, they get stuck looking at the computer
Yeah.
and they forget about the crowd.
Yeah. It's funny because Joe Bunn was calling it Serato face.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
so
you're
your
looking at
computer.
your computer and you're not.
So what happens, Fernando? You know this. To make a commercial, a TV commercial, you have to spend all of this time beforehand.
Yeah.
Or radio broadcasting. You're in radio broadcasting. Your hour, 2 hour show, the preparation for that might have been 6 to 8 hours, maybe 12 hours, just to put that little show together.
Yeah.
The same thing should be with your events. You shouldn't just walk in there. The day of the DJ just showing up with two speakers and playing music is long gone. You have to basically be prepared. And why? Because that's going to set you up for the next week, the following week, and following week. That'll set you up apart from the rest of the DJs,
Exactly.
longevity either in a nightclub or return customer for your clients and those that are there, because you could potentially you have 250 to 300 people there. How many times they go, oh my God, I got to have your card.
Right. Yeah.
Great. And you know this, Fernando.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that's your clientele, not just for bringing them back to the club, but for your business. When you're not spinning at the club, and nightclubs are interesting. And I want to share a story. When I was working at the Mayan in downtown, I got let go of that club. They let me go, and it's interesting the reason why. I was playing in the room downstairs. Okay, it was the smaller room, but I had it packed. I mean, it was packed. I mean, to the point where in the DJ booth we were hot and we were sweating because it was so packed. And after I think it was maybe 7 months, the owner comes up and tells me, "Hey, brother, I'm sorry, but I gotta let you go." And I was just like, "Why? What's going on? I mean, I've been rocking it and this and that." He says, "Yeah." He goes, "No, you've been doing really great." He goes, "But nobody's drinking." And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, nobody buys anything at the bar. You have them all on the dance floor. You don't give them a break." And I'm like, "Well, I can give him a break if you want." He's all, "No, we're gonna hire somebody else." And I was like, "Is there an underlining thing here?" Later on, I found that out also, because when I was broadcasting live from Giggles nightclub in Glendale, I got really close to the owner and I told him that story. And he says, "Yeah." He goes, "We cannot have the dance floor, especially if you have a small room, totally packed and nobody's consuming. That's where we make our money." And so I was like, he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "If it were me," he goes, "I probably would have done the same thing. I probably would have let you go and to get somebody else that, that does that, but it's interesting how some of these nightclubs operate and stuff. And there are DJs that will go to a nightclub and say, "No, I can rock it. I can rock it. I can rock it." But it's a different monster from a wedding or a quinceañera. So what's
Right.
been your experience with that? How do you handle these situations?
Well, for me, it's very important because, like you said, Fernando, if you're not structurally programming your music and rotating your crowd or your clientele, because I call it new blood when people walk in, and if you're not doing a good job playing a variety of music, even though it might be the same, but let's go, let's basically take it from 120 BPMs all the way to 180 and then bring it back down again. You have to rotate your crowd.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of music out there, and you can literally burn somebody out and say, like I said, these people are going to a bar. What do they go to the bar for? To meet somebody, to dance, and to drink.
Yeah.
You burn them out. They've already met a person. They already drank. Bye.
See you later. Good night.
So you can literally empty a place by 11 o'clock if you don't follow a program structure. Yeah. And that's a hard lesson to learn back in the day, Fernando, because I've been there where you're rocking. People are going, yeah. That's great if you have people coming in and going out,
Right.
But if that's your core competency of your people coming in, and they've already had their fill, hey, it's time to get jiggy and we're out of here.
That's it. It's on. Crazy.
So, DJ, you have to understand the rotation of your music.
Yeah.
And how to work a crowd. That's working a crowd. And again, as I mentioned, walk out of your booth, look around, talk to some people. What do you think? How do you like it?
Yeah.
Your bartenders are basically the ones who will tell you, hey, you rocked it tonight. But you know what? We sold a lot of alcohol.
There you go.
There's been nights, Fernando, where I walk out of Trevino's and the bar is literally caked with glasses stacked up. You walk around the perimeter, there's bottles of beer all over the place. People freaking had a good time.
Yeah.
Last song you play it, and they're like, "Oh no,
more, yeah." Yeah. And you're already tired because they don't realize that you've been up there, 5-6 hours, spinning and stuff without a break, and it's like.
Well, let me tell you something, Brandon. I want to just take 5 or 6 hours. Screw that. Play half an hour, rock it, and you're gone.
Yeah.
I used to work for Boeing. Okay, I bounce out of there, Boeing, go to the Quiet Canyon, do my happy hour from 5 to 9. 5 to 9. Then I would bounce out of there, go to Trevino's and finish off the night from 10 to 1:30.
Wow. Non-stop. And then the next day you had a wedding.
The next day I had a wedding.
Oh my gosh, dude.
But again, it's the music that energizes you, but you have to be conscientious.
Yes.
You have to understand alcohol and DJing mixed to a certain degree. But when you take that to the next level and you get drunk at, forget it. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done because now you'll get to the point where in the old days you pick up the wrong needle because you're playing the music, right?
Yep.
And the music stops because you picked it up.
Yeah.
Or you hit the wrong button and people are like booing you, like get that drunk.
You're having a Howard Stern moment. Oh no!
You have to understand that.
Yeah.
This is more of a hobby, Fernando, and you understand that because the only way that you can do this is by continuously learning and networking with other DJs.
Exactly.
Network with other DJs, you not only build your own competency, but you also build that of your fellow camaraderie. And you create that. And how do you create that? Just basically keeps you busy, right?
Yeah.
You go to these seminars, you go to these workshops. How many DJs do you know actually go to Mobile Beat and go to the classes and take workshops and are listening to what's new, what's going on, technology, how to sell yourself, how to be a better DJ. Because as I mentioned before, if you're stuck back in and it's not relevant and you're saying, man, I hate the music they're playing right now, blah, blah, that means that you're not up to date and relevant to what's going on.
Exactly.
You have to understand that. Back in the 80s when there was the flashbacks, and this rock en español started just taking off. Oh my God. And let me tell you, Fernando, I can't emphasize enough. I really, really appreciate the friendship and the knowledge that I gained from you from the rock en español, the pop stuff that you're playing at Viva and at Rumble Room, because you know, being an experienced DJ like myself, you have to be humble.
Yes.
You. And I was just watching you and I just listening to you, and I mean, talk about you were like I seen you as a DJ that I could basically say, you know what, I want to be
Oh
like
my
this.
gosh. And I was the other way around. I was saying, I want to be like Joe.
Oh, because you had the experience, the knowledge, you had the foresight, you had the mixing talent. You were
Thank you.
playing relevant stuff to that time, and you haven't stopped.
It's been fun. The thing is, it's like you say. I mean, there's got to be a passion. You gotta love it. I mean, since and it's like you said, you were a kid. You were playing instruments with your family in the backyard. It's like with me. I mean, I remember the first records that I ever heard was the Beatles and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Those were the two first records that I ever heard when I was a little kid, and I just fell in love with music. And after that, it was like certain songs would give me goosebumps. And the day that I found out how much passion I had for music was when I went to go see the Phantom of the Opera, and I didn't think I was gonna like it. I was like, I don't want to go to an opera. And then when I heard the music and the voices, I was like, oh, I was like blown away. And that's when I knew that the music was definitely inside of me. And it's something that DJs nowadays sometimes they get a little lost in translation because of social media and everything out there, and they see these DJs being all cool and stuff like that. But it's more than that.
Right.
It's a lot more than that. I mean, like big DJs, Tiesto, Cascade, and all these guys, Dead Mouse, they go out there and they take their passion for music not just in DJing but in producing music and creating, and that's something that is a lot of hard work. It's not just party, have a good time. It is a lot of hard work. I mean, that I used to do remixes and stuff when I was back at Viva, and I would be hours. I mean, literally, I would get to my studio at 9:30, and I was out of there like 3:30, 4 in the morning the next day, from just doing a remix, and I wasn't even done. That was just the first day, the first session. So it's crazy, the amount of work that goes into it. And when you're starting off as a DJ, the first things first, you got to practice. You definitely got to practice. You got to know your music, like you've been saying, and it's very very important that you really are passionate about it, especially if you're going to start a business. Now, if you want to do it as a hobby, that's cool. You know what I mean, and do it every now and then. To each all his own. But if you're thinking of having a business, you got to treat it as a business, and you have to learn the ins and outs of everything, not just mixing but your equipment. How does everything work? If something goes wrong, how do you troubleshoot that problem? If you're using video screens, do you have the right cabling? All that stuff, you have to know every single little minute detail. And that's what I love about you, is that you're very very meticulous
Thank
on
you.
everything that you do. I mean, I've seen your setups, and everything is clean. Today, you got these masses, screens up there. You don't see a wire anywhere. Unlike the old days where there were wires everywhere, because we had no choice.
Picture, you'll see a bunch of wires all over there. But
So
eventually, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's crazy. So we're coming about to the end of our little segment here. Joe. I wanted to go back to what we were talking about and your relationship with Vicky Carr. You related to her and stuff. It's funny how certain things come full circle, and it's like as you know, I help produce the Mariachi USA Festival at the Hollywood Bowl every year. Unfortunately, we didn't have it this year because of COVID-19 and stuff. But every year, for the last, 11 years, I've been helping produce that show. And it's a huge mariachi show here in Southern California, and people from all over the nation come to check it out. And Vicky Carr was one of the guests there. And it's interesting because I was able to meet her. She is also one of my parents' favorite artists. They loved her. And I remember I invited them over. They got to meet her real quick, meet and greet and stuff. So interesting how this all intertwines between you and I, man. There's a definite connection between us.
Yeah, Vicky Carter. Again, a lot of people from back in the day know her. She's like in God rest her soul, Selena. She was like a Selena back in the day, where all the Latinos, the Tejanos, when she would go and basically appear at a concert, they would flood that concert and they
Yeah.
couldn't put a person in there because you know they love the music.
Yeah.
They
A
love the
beautiful
music
voice. Beautiful voice.
and the artistry behind it, Fernando. I mean, you know that, but she was like one of the few females that was accepted in that.
Hmm.
Her actual last name was Carbona. Her dad, my uncle was Carlos, and then Lorenza, my aunt, were their parents. But it was Carbona. But producers said, "Oh, you got to change your name and bring it down a little bit."
Tone it down just a little bit.
But
All right, brother.
it was
So,
good.
what would you say your last bit of advice to any up and coming DJ that might be watching this video? What is your biggest advice at this point for them?
My biggest advice would just stay relevant. It doesn't matter because nowadays you have to incorporate not only sound, but possibly if you're doing mobile, lighting. So learn BMX. If you elevate to the next level, which is video DJing, then that's another whole level. But what's most important is that you understand your equipment and how to troubleshoot it and learn the software behind it. And also, don't be afraid to go and check out other guys. Nowadays, with all this streaming, oh my God, you see these guys and you're like, wow, you're amazed
Yeah.
what they're doing with the technology. Young people as well as OGs like ourselves that are taking it to the next level. I mean, it's already been done, the scratching, the sampling, everything else. But now, can you blend music perfectly? Can you harmonize? Can you keep the crowd going beyond that hour, the 2 hours, the 3 hours, the 4 hours, the 6 hours? We're talking about overtime, baby.
Yep.
And that's really for you. So keep in mind, pace yourself. That's one thing and know your music. Know your music.
That's it, brother. It's been amazing having you as my first guest here on DJ to DJ. I
Uh,
really appreciate you. I respect you highly. God bless you. Give out your social info so if anybody wants to reach out to you and check your stuff out and see where they can find you.
okay, you can find me on Facebook as Casillas Joe. On Instagram, DJ underscore Joe and D. And then you don't need to know all the other social. I have we got Twitter and stuff, but that's enough. You can get to me from either my Instagram and my Facebook.
There you go. Awesome.
I'm open-minded and mostly helpful to everyone. And as you know, Fernando, we have this Menudo meetup, which I created 10 years ago, and we're over 700 members.
Nice. And the Manila meetup, I mean that right now, obviously because of COVID, you're not having the actual meetings because the Manila meetup, they actually have DJ meetings where DJs get together, they collaborate. You've had guest DJs, you've had Egyptian Lover there, Peter Rodriguez, and several DJs that actually come in and spin for the other DJs and talk about their experience. So that's really cool. Where can DJs find the Manila meetup?
Go to the Menudo meetup on Facebook and type it in, and I'll go ahead and add you.
Awesome. Awesome. Brother, again, thank you so much. God bless you. I really appreciate you. And we're going to be in touch. You know how that is.
Thank you, Fernando.
All right. Thanks for joining us here on our first edition of DJ to DJ. We'll be having more guest DJs coming real soon. I hope you guys be sure to subscribe to this page and hit that little bell button so that we get more hits and more guest DJs for you. Appreciate you guys. Have a great, safe day. Talk to you soon.